Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are starting a little later than planned. Apologies to everybody that was here. And here we are. We have 23 people on. Guys, 38, here we go. Again, very, very sorry about the delay here, guys. Had some technical issues and very happy to be able to be with you. But I have a couple of announcements. One, apart from the fact we're running a tad late, is that it's just going to be me this week, would you believe, as our glorious hosts are busy setting up for the Millionaire Business School that is starting in a few hours. And so I've been up here for the last 25 minutes getting the tech side sorted so I could get on with you guys. But anyway, I'm really pleased that we managed to make it work. And I'm really excited to be running through some of the questions. Had some great questions come through again this week. And so why don't we just dive in and see if I can start adding some value to you guys that have been waiting patiently for the last 20 plus minutes. So let me dive in and see some of the questions ready that we had. Well, the first one we're going to start with is, let's have a look. How do I get my ideas or concepts for my business? And that's a great question. As many of you know, I've had so many different ideas for businesses over the years, and I get a lot of ideas, as most people do, on a regular basis. And one of the reasons for that is because I'm open to ideas. Your brain is an amazing machine that will always give you answers if you ask the right questions. And it'll always help you focus on what it is that you tell it you're looking for. So if you're open to possibility, if you're looking for ideas, if you're looking for different ways to help people or solve their problems, or look for, where's the pain in this process that I can look for an opportunity to try and mitigate, to maybe turn into an opportunity, then that's what you're going to be looking for. Your brain is like a torch on a dark forest. Everything's going on, but you need to tell the torch where to point, where the flashlight should point. And for me, I tend to get a gut feel. I see something and it'll either speak to me or it won't. It sounds a little nebulous, but I'm just being honest. And a lot of the ideas I got, especially in the early days, was looking at something that I thought was good, that other people were doing, but saw room for improvement. And then I'd see something else in a different industry, something that they were doing, and I thought, if I took what they were doing and applied it over here, then we'd have something. And that's really where a lot of my ideas originally came from. They were like piecing together different parts of a puzzle on different ideas and businesses that I saw. So that was really a lot of the impetus for where I'm at. So hey guys, I see we've got quite a few people coming in, and again, finally guys, sorry for that delay. That's what happens when you put the entrepreneur in charge of the tech. We end up waiting for 20 minutes, but again, your patience has been awesome. I see we've got Tina Happy from Bulgaria as well, and you guys. So thank you, my loyal friends, for hanging in there. And if you've got other questions, type them in the chat as well. So let me run through a few and I'll take some out of the chat as we go. Here's another one. This came from another guy called Peter, great name. And it says, you'd like advice on how to sell items on Amazon. Well, guess what? There just happens to be some pretty good courses around on that at the moment. One of them is ran by a friend of mine who's actually coming to the Millionaire Business School tomorrow morning. And his course is called the Amazon Millionaire. And I've met several people that have done very well on that. I'm not here to endorse it in terms of, saying that I've done it myself, but there are some great ways and great resources for pretty little money and investment for where you can find information like that. We also have Chris, and he's asking, how do I balance gratitude for what I have now versus just wanting more out of life? Well, let me see if I can draw an analogy with that. If you take an apple tree, an apple tree at a certain part of its life is grateful for, what it is that it has at the point it's there. In terms of, it's a sapling or it's a young tree. It's grateful for the nutrients that it gets. It's grateful for the rain. It's grateful for the sunshine. It doesn't mean to say it doesn't want to be a bigger apple tree. Yeah, everybody has a path. But if it's running along that path, focusing on, I want to be a bigger apple tree without being grateful for what it currently has, then you have an issue. And that's where I see a lot of people. It's like, oh, I don't recognize or I'm grateful for what's already in my pocket, therefore, because I need to be somewhere I'm not. That isn't the game. The game is, if you can be grateful for everything you have, you can be grateful for having the opportunity or the potential to become more of who you are. So, from that perspective, I can say that it's a lot easier to rather chase that rabbit of wanting more, to try to be grateful for things you haven't got yet, than recognize where you're at, but also recognize everything in life grows and contributes. You can be grateful for being on the path of becoming a bigger apple tree so that you can have more apples to contribute. Hope that makes sense. Okay, we did have a question in the chat, I believe, that was there a moment ago. Where's that gone? But let's pull on this one here. How do I overcome procrastination and get to work on my goals? Well, procrastination is a word that I think everybody has come across at some point. Yeah, I think Shakespeare summed it up beautifully. He said, procrastination is the thief of time, which is a great quote. And it is. Procrastination is you putting off things that tomorrow that can be done today. And that is just a fast track to shortchanging yourself out of potential. And the reason most people procrastinate can come from many different places. It can come from a fear of success. And when you say a fear of success, what do I mean? It means that a lot of people are comfortable where they're at. In fact, they're comfortable being uncomfortable. And, if you can have an understanding that if you are not happy with the prospect of visiting a place where you are more successful than where you are now, in whatever format that takes, you will self-sabotage. If you're not comfortable being or seeing yourself in situations that success would demand that you be in, you will self-sabotage. If you don't think that you're worth the level of success that you're working towards, you will self-sabotage or put off. And underneath a lot of this, it's usually the fear that we're not enough. If I don't risk unconsciously, then I can't fail. And that's the root cause of what I see a lot of people doing. So how do you overcome that? Well, very simple. Get a bigger why. You hear me talk about this a lot. If you can write down 50 reasons why you should be doing what it is that you want to do, then guess what? You are going to have far more impetus to get over procrastination. Now, there's other things I could nip into, and I'm still not going to have time, unfortunately, to get into some of the other deeper work around procrastination. But generally speaking, if you want a fast track to getting out of it, build more reasons why you should be doing what you do. Because then your brain's going to look at it and think you're an idiot for not doing it, rather than think you may look like an idiot if you try and fail at it. Does that make sense? Okay, let's move forward. Yes, there was another question here. Hi, Peter, you told us several times we're the average of the 5 people we hang out with. I applied it, so how do I deal with extreme solitude? Well, the first step before we try to change anything in our peer group is that we have to be comfortable with ourselves, because a lot of the time, sometimes we can blame our peer group when really the issues surrounding what's happening with our peer group are looking back in the mirror. In fact, one of the things that I've been known to say is that if everybody you meet in life is an asshole, maybe it's not them. So hope you take that in the spirit it's intended, but it's true. A lot of the time we project our own stuff and we vibrate at a level that attracts people at that level. So if we want to upgrade our peer group, the first thing we upgrade is ourselves. And the challenge is that we cannot, we cannot feel alone if we are happy with our own company. Solitude is required. I'd be more comfortable working with someone that was happy with their own company, which included solitude, than I would somebody that was scared of being alone and therefore would be tempted to take relationships, partnerships, what have you, because they don't want to be alone, not that the fact that it's the right kind of people to hang around with. So again, life is like a tuning fork. If you want to vibrate at a certain level, and then you will attract automatically other people that vibrate at that level. Now, you can obviously be a little proactive about that by going out into places where they are. When I was 17 and I first learned about the law of conformity, which is the 95% law, what I decided that was I didn't want to drink in my local bar anymore, 17, where I was playing pool. I'd want to go and hang out in higher level establishments. The Grand Hotel in Leicester, in a place called Rothley Court, that was quite posh, and the drinks were twice as expensive as my local bar. And my local bar, I used to buy a soda and lime because it was 50 cents, and it was the cheapest drink they did. So on that note, I really had a calling to go and try and hang out in better places. Now, I was out of my depth. I would park my little mini car around the corner outside of the car park of the higher bars. I was embarrassed. And of course, I gave off a bit of a I'm embarrassed vibration, and nobody wanted to talk to me. But I remember the time that I got a bit of an image maker. I put on a decent suit. I bought an expensive pair of shoes, which for me was like, 30 pounds instead of 10 pounds. And I walked in and I felt really good. And I started talking to people, or people wanted to talk to me, or they'd open up a conversation at the bar. I was the same person, but I wore a different identity. So, really about upgrading your peer group. Be comfortable with who you are first, because if you're not, forget it. Being good with solitude. Well, as soon as you're okay with who you are in the mirror, solitude isn't an issue. If you're not okay with who you are in the mirror, guess what? Changing your peer group isn't going to change anything. Changing your relationship, your partner, your wife, or your husband isn't going to work, because guess what? Wherever you go, you're going to take you with you. So, that's really how I would respond to that. Here's a message, or sorry, a question from Cloudy, who said, having put all my energy into my ex-husband's business for 24 years, I've had to resign as a result of divorce, but there's still plenty of me that wants to start my own business. I'm keeping my eyes open for opportunity. How do I make it happen? Well, for a start, I remember somebody turning around to me and says, I've worked for 20 years for the family business, and I'm really unhappy. I says, why are you unhappy? They says, it wasn't my family. So I kind of get you understand where you're coming from. But the fact that there's absolutely still plenty of you that wants to start your business. Keep your eyes open. How do you make it happen? Keep keeping your eyes open and be ready to take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. There's nothing more complicated than that. There's not a formula or a spreadsheet or an equation. When opportunity comes, if you've had 24 years working inside a business at the highest level of ownership, your husband's business, and you get to see the inner workings for a quarter of a century, you are far better placed than many other people at that level. So, see that as a plus and go with something that lights you up. And now it's on your terms. Okay, back to the chat. Let's have a look at a couple of questions coming in. How can I be a high performance man, like Dan Pena says? And I mean, working without rest and being a badass and all I can be, what's stopping me? Well, my first question here, Sabra, and it is a great question but my first question to you is, why would you want to be a high performance badass? And what do you think that means specifically? If it means that you can wring out every drop out of every day, exhausted, and then, burn out and think that you're better because you've got money in the bank, you may want to revisit that. Being high performance, from my perspective, is being able to, go out and create, magic in business and change people's lives, and still have time at the end of the night to be able to spend with my fiance, or, not burn myself out like I did in my 20s and nearly kill myself, but still have energy to be able to give. Now, the question to what is stopping you, the answer is the same to any question about what's stopping you. Yourself. look in the mirror. Why? Because there's always a way to get around anything you want. But a better question, Sarah, on that is, what do you think high performance means to you? Not to Dan, not to anybody else, but to you. And why are you less comfortable right now being who you are? Because if you're okay with who you are, you can choose to be something else. If you're okay being low performance, you can choose to be high performance. But if you don't like where you are right now, you're going to try and resist it, and usually that persists. The first thing that I would suggest you do is look at your identity. Is your identity already a high performance person, even if you don't work the same amount of hours that Dan does? At that level, it doesn't matter. You're setting the game up to win. If I'm a high performance person, even if I take a day off, I'm still a high performance person. If that makes sense. So your identity there governs a lot of different things. Yeah. Let's jump into a couple more here. This is from Maxim. It says, I often look at the competitor businesses, and when they do something better, I get frustrated with myself and my team for not being the best. What is the best way to cope with this frustration or anger? Well, great question there, and a couple of things I want to share. One is that if you do get angry or frustrated, it's down to the rules that you have. Now, looking at the question, again, I don't know who you are, Maxim, we've never met, but I understand people pretty well. And a lot of the time, frustration and anger in that scenario is because you feel that by somebody else doing better, by contrast, you're not good enough. It shows that you have a smaller building in town than they have, and that triggers the fear that you're not enough. It's unconscious, and we usually kick back against that, and that can channel through frustration or anger. And that can be healthy if you channel it into being able to build your building higher. But I don't worry about competition. Yeah, if I see the competition doing something better than me, I thank them for doing my market research. If I see somebody doing something else, because I can't do everything, I'm grateful for them for being able to provide me with better ideas. As soon as I get upset and angry at myself because I'm not good enough, that pattern is going to show up again and again, no matter how much I try to be my business, or build my business. Yeah, it's endemic of a pattern that is running that you're kicking back with. So what's the best way to cope? First, lighten up on yourself. Stop focusing on the fact that you have to be better than others, and start focusing on the fact that you're good enough as you are, so therefore you can choose to build your building higher and channel your energy into that rather than be frustrated somebody's trying to, has a taller skyscraper. That's bullshit. Yeah, build the best building that you can build and be okay with that, and throw everything into that. And that way, you're not worried about looking around the corner because somebody's got a shinier object. Okay. A few other questions coming in. Let's have a look. From David. Peter, do I see any space for fun, selfish activities like video games? When the time you spend really adds up, let's say even you spend 24 hours throughout the course of my lifetime, it's still time could have been used to save a life, advance the world, grow spiritually. Again, David, we're getting to something called balance here. Now, I'm also a great believer that the traditional way people look at balance is unrealistic. You cannot have a balanced life, in my opinion, in the way that most people try to juggle the kids and the work and the career and the this and the that. As a human being, we're not meant to be this sort of baseline equilibrium. That's not what turns us on. It's not what drives us. It's not what the best of humanity has been exposed to be able to create or has been inspired by. We are not in a marathon. We are in a series of short sprints. That is life. It is full on go, take time out, recharge. It is let's go out and work for 40 hours in 3 days, as I'm about to do for the MBS, and then take a day off and recover. Or it's let's go 6 months and then take 2 weeks on the beach. Or let's finish this project all bells to the wall and then take some time back. That I see life in those terms far more than trying to balance and spin all the plates and have them all running at the same time. So, but when it comes to fun, absolutely. If what you're doing isn't fun, why are you doing it? Yeah, life should be fun. Joy is our natural state for no apparent reason whatsoever. We don't need an excuse to have joy. And yeah, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, it's a warning sign. Yeah, if you are not happy doing what you're doing, it's a warning sign. Yeah, your feeling center is saying, "Hey, yeah, wake up. What are you doing this for?" Even if you don't enjoy what you do, try renting yourself out. If you say, "Well, I've got to have this job to get enough money to give me some security to go start a business," or whatever story you're telling yourself right now, and you don't enjoy the job per se, rent yourself out or find something to enjoy about it by asking better questions. Now, there was a situation I was in yesterday where something went wrong, and I was with a group of people, and somebody was getting frustrated, and I said to them, I says, "Well, what's funny about this you've not noticed yet?" They looked at me and said, "Well, what do you mean? Nothing's funny about this." I says, "Well, not if you're asking those questions." Right? Yeah, as in like, why is this happening to me? So ask yourself better questions, and that shines the torch on a different part of the forest. But yeah, fun is the time for fun. There should be time for fun. Yeah, you've got to sharpen the axe, my friends. But here's the deal. Sharpening the axe is only valid if you're then still going to go and chop wood. Yeah, taking 2 weeks off is great if you're lying on the beach recharging, if you're going to come back and then throw yourself full into something else with all that new energy. Going without 2-week recharge on the beach can be self-defeating. Yeah, if the axe gets blunt, it needs sharpening. And fun and humor is a great way to sharpen the axe and relax and de-stress. Hope that helps, David. Imran, you're one of my greatest growth models. Well, thank you. That's very humbling. If you were to recommend one book for self-development and growth mindset, what would the book be? Everybody wants to know what's the one book. It's funny because I think I've got a YouTube video coming out this week on the 3 top books I would actually recommend. And I pre-framed that video as with the same thing I'm going to say to you, Imran. And that is, it depends who you are and where you're at. Now, for anybody in personal development, which includes everybody on this call and everybody listening here, otherwise you wouldn't be listening, as an absolute prerequisite, Think and Grow Rich has to be there. Yeah, it is, without a shadow of a doubt, a mandatory reading. It encompasses so many different things, and you can read so much at so many different levels. And I've personally met so many millionaires and billionaires who had nothing, started with nothing, picked up that book, and it changed everything. Now, the caveat to that is I've also recommended that book to people that have read the book completely and come back 3 months later and moaned at me the fact that the book hasn't made them rich. So, it's about applying what you learn. You've heard me say before, knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. But Think and Grow Rich is absolutely a book that is a prerequisite. And think about it. You've got what was the richest man in the world, Andrew Carnegie, the world's first billionaire in the 1800s, my friends. Put that into perspective. And he classed himself as the most successful man in the world. And he says, when I die, I'll take everything I've learned with me. Why can't I pass this on to other people? Very enlightened guy. Scots guy, made his money in steel in the Industrial Revolution. And he commissioned a young reporter called Napoleon Hill, who had no money, to devote 20 years of his life to going to studying the most successful people in the world, not just successful in money, but successful in all sorts of areas. And in fulfilling their potential, shall we say. And he turned around to Napoleon Hill and he says, "Oh, by the way, I'm not going to pay you for it." And his friend said he was crazy. You got to go and work for the richest man in the world for 20 years for free. I mean, who would be insane enough to do that? But Andrew Carnegie was smart. He didn't want somebody doing a job. He wanted somebody that had vested interest to learn what they were going to learn from the best people in the world, to basically apply that so that they could become successful and test if it worked. Anyway, long story short, he wrote letters of introduction to hundreds of the world's most accomplished people, and Napoleon Hill got to interview them. And he didn't actually spend 20 years doing that. He spent 25 years doing that, and he summed up his entire life's work in a book called Think and Grow Rich. Now, if I haven't sold it to you by now and lit your wood, then your wood's wet. So go read that book, and if you've already read it, go read it again. So that would be my number one recommendation. There are several others I could give, but as I said, it depends where you're at. different levels of consciousness, different levels of awareness, different stages in the journey. But that is definitely the book that no matter where you are will move you to another level. Okay. Let's shoot back to some of the questions that were emailed in as well. What have we got here? What can I do to keep myself 100% motivated for my business if rewards and success are not always clear or forthcoming? That's from another Peter from the Netherlands. Well, again, it's your why. You hear many different phrases. Always darkest before the dawn. Every great journey is about the journey. If you're chasing the results without putting in the work, or you're underestimating the work, you may have to keep going. If you want to be the best, and whether it's the best athlete, the best musician, the best businessman or entrepreneur, you have to put in the time and the effort. Now, you're not going to do that if you're trying to motivate yourself. And I'm a believer that motivation is very short term. And the motivation is short term because it's backed by willpower. And willpower is useful. It's like a turbo button on a car. It's like a sport button on a car. It gets you, an extra few horsepower when you need it. But you can't drive your car permanently in that, otherwise you'll stress your engine. Motivation and willpower are great if it's dark and it's cold and you've got to get up half an hour early, then willpower is a great place to be. But if you're using that every single morning, it's going to run out. Inspiration is different. I can be 100% inspired all the time about what I'm doing because I'm on fire with it, even though sometimes I don't feel motivated. But inspiration pulls you forward, from like an outside force, compelling you on. Motivation is internal, trying to shove you from behind, if that makes sense. So, how do I keep myself 100% motivated? I don't. I make sure that I'm not relying on motivation. I'm relying on inspiration. And inspiration comes from making it more than you, making it more than just about you trying to be better, to try to prove that you're good enough. It comes from being able to add value to the greater good. Why are you here? What is it that you can do to make a difference? Brendan Burchard, one of the great internet marketers and who wrote the book, the Motivation Manifesto. His whole thing is, did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? And those are key fundamental questions. And if you want to matter in this life, nobody cares about how much money you have when you die. Nobody cares about the amount of Ferraris that you bought when you were trying to show off or prove to yourself that you'd finally made it. Nobody cares. People care about how you make them feel and how you light their fire. How do you build somebody else up? How do you raise the significance of others rather than focus on yourself? So get inspired by focusing there on something that you enjoy doing, and you don't have to motivate yourself. Okay, let's have a little look. Another question from Ziba. How am I? Well, I'm absolutely fabulous, above average, top of the range, couldn't be better, bordering magnificent. And to be totally honest, if I was any better, I'd probably be you guys. That is probably my stock answer when somebody asks me that, but I guarantee you it isn't a put-on. But thank you for asking anyway, Ziba. And loving these questions, guys. Keep them coming. One here from Ilhani. What do I think will happen if I stop my morning routine meditations, affirmations? Am I going to do it for the rest of my life? And is it supposed to be that hard? Oh my goodness. Okay, well, the presupposition there straight away is the fact that it's hard. Creating a new habit, you're welcome, Leonardo. Creating a new habit is usually difficult because we have ingrained patterns in our brain called ganglia or different neural networks that are already established, that brain signals are easier to flow down than create new. Just path of least resistance. So creating something new as a habit is more difficult than doing things we already know. Just like water will flow down a channel that's already been cut rather than carve a new one. Same thing. So if you are starting a new habit, you've got to carve a new channel, and that's okay. That's where your why comes in, and willpower can be a good sport button to press, and inspiration is your best friend. But meditation for me in a morning routine, getting back to your question, is very similar to the following analogy I want to share with you all here. If you were to get up and you were to, let's say you lived in London, let's say you lived in East London, and you had to travel to West London for an appointment, and you were 20 minutes late, and you wanted to dash out of the house, and you kind of knew where it was. You got an address, but you kind of knew where it was, but you're just going to go, and you jump in the car and you drive. Okay? Now, contrast that with, oh my God, you're 20 minutes late, and yeah, you've got a rough idea what it is, but instead of jumping in the car and driving, you sit down and you spend 5 minutes to program the sat-nav. Now, 10 minutes later, guess what? The illusion is that the first person is further ahead. But let's fast forward half an hour when we get to West London and we're kind of running around streets or going up and down dead ends, kind of trying to find out where we are. At that point, the person who took the time to program the sat-nav starts to win the race, starts to get there sooner and faster. You see, in the morning, it's so tempting for people to just run out and hit the street, run out and hit the email, run out and hit the office, run out and get going with the day. But for me, meditation is programming the sat-nav. It allows me to sit back, invest the time so that the rest of the day goes smoothly. And knowing that, why wouldn't I do it? It's like eating breakfast. If you don't eat breakfast, you're going to run out or have an energy issue around about midday. So, I haven't got time for breakfast. Well, then you've got to make time for being sluggish. So, if you can understand that for me, if I don't meditate, and, I'll be honest, it doesn't happen every single day. Why? Because the only thing that I do every single day that I can guarantee is breathing. That's it. Some days I go without food, depending on what's happening, if I'm traveling or if I'm on the road. So, it's like going to the gym. Do I try to go to the gym 5-6 days a week? Absolutely. But sometimes is it 3? Absolutely. Yeah, life is a pretty unregimented deal. So if you try to fit life into your box, you're going to be struggling. But do I meditate 6, if not 7 days a week, most weeks? Yeah, absolutely. But does it happen every time? No. Do I beat myself up? No. But do I understand that if I start to miss my meditation, just like if you start to miss the gym, do you start to notice in the physical world, if I start working out, what happens over time? Yes. In the metaphysical world, if I stop meditating, guess what? Things start getting a little more chaotic. So yeah, that's usually my thing. Oh yeah, I didn't do my morning practice this morning, or the last 3 days I've cut it short a little bit because I've been trying to get a little more sleep, or I've been working late, or what have you. So it's a very easy way to reflect back. Okay. I hope that helps. So, am I going to do it for the rest of my life? Do you want to go to the gym, eat, or breathe for the rest of your life? Yeah, this isn't a one-time deal. It's a habit, and then it becomes a way of life. And for me, programming the sat-nav before I go to a destination that is across town just makes sense. And yes, I will keep doing it unless I find a better way. Question here from Tyrone. It says, if I'm following my path and I try anything that I can think about, I risk all my money and keep developing my business and everything's failed. I try for 5 years and choose to change direction and start something new. Is it the right choice? Well, there's a couple of things there, Tyrone, I'll highlight. One is that your consistency on being able to move forward will be tested. Yeah, persistence will be tested. Life is not a straight line. But if you keep doing the same mistakes, or you still get the same result, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. If you are passionate about wanting to see a sunset and you keep running east and you don't care, you've never seen it yet, but you're going to keep going. It's been 5 years and I'm still running and I still haven't seen the sunset, but you may want to question your strategy. Becoming successful in business isn't that difficult. Yeah. In today's market is definitely not. In fact, those of you that are joining me tomorrow on the MBS will find out exactly how easy it can be to put certain things in place that reinvent entrepreneurship. so that you can go out and not have to go through some of the battle scars that people like myself and my mentors that went through in the 80s and 90s, when it was a very different playing field. Right now, you can get kids in a slum in India with a smartphone become millionaires in 12 months because they understand how to add value at a big level. You can have people here following the old traditional model that goes out and puts massive capex and hours and employment and all the traditional stuff in, and that can still work and still a big model for companies like Apple or other. I'm not saying it isn't the way. I'm just saying that the business playing field has shifted dramatically in the last even 5 years, and it's a lot easier now. So if you're running east looking for a sunset, then you've been running 5 years. I applaud the fact that you've got stamina and persistence. That's a massive plus when it comes to being an entrepreneur. But you may want to question the strategy and go to look at some of the reasons why things haven't happened. And if you find a new direction and you can start seeing some sunlight come through, go for it. Right? Your feeling center will tell you if you're on track or not. I hope that makes sense. Let's see what else we've got here. Well, here's a philosophical question from Bruce. He said, how does what you teach differ from Plato's view of the good life? Specifically, what more is needed than courage, self-discipline, and justice for a good life? Well, that is a very philosophical question there, Bruce. And having read Plato and certainly one of his greatest students, which is Socrates, I can say that I think he chunks it down fairly simply. What do I teach that's different? Ultimately, I think some of you may have heard me on London Real. The truth with a capital T is that we don't know the truth. We can only get as close to the truth with a model of our own way of interacting with the world that serves us and gives us practical benefit. But if you look at self-discipline, absolutely. Absolute prerequisite for doing anything is having the discipline to be able to do it without somebody saying, get out of bed or you're fired. That's just a given. And one of the greatest areas that you'll see people given their exam in self-discipline is when they get kids, because now it's not about them. And if you don't get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to feed the baby, then there's a lot of consequences to that. So self-discipline is always great to be able to keep developing. It's a great muscle to build. And again, like going to the gym, my friends, the reason we go to the gym as an athlete is so that you have the strength when you need it. I'll say that again. You go to the gym to build the strength for when you need it, not for when you're in the gym. Learning how to go to the gym is great, but not going thinking, oh, when I come across a moment in my life where I need strength, I'll go train for it, doesn't work. So self-discipline, building the muscle of the self-discipline when you don't need it, means it will be there when you do. How that makes sense. Courage is the foundational transition point between victim and achiever. It's the foundational point between being able to serve something bigger than you and being self-centered, egotistical. Courage is what people have to change the face of the world. Courage gets you out of your comfort zone. Courage is by far the biggest and the most important, I would say, character trait above almost anything else. With courage, you can start to develop self-discipline. I think that's huge. But the other thing you put in here, Bruce, is justice for a good life. And here's where we start to diverge a little, because justice is always subjective. Justice meaning what? Now, I'm a great believer of having everybody be okay with their own model of the world. And justice in the eyes of the righteous means that you don't fit my pictures and you should be punished or judged. Justice is always a position that takes a side, usually before understanding. Now, I'm not here to say there is no justice. I'm not here to say that what happened in Paris was right or wrong. What I'm here to say is that it's always subjective. And at the end of the day, you're always going to have a juxtaposition on that based on somebody else's perspective. Why? Because people do things for reasons, and usually the reasons that they believe in at the time, serve their model of the world. Now, how that contrasts is, as I say, is always going to be different. But justice for a good life, you can go through history and pull examples of what we used to think is justice, and right now would be atrocities. So coming back, I would say that the best thing people can do, and I learned this from Norman Schwarzkopf, who was the commander in the First Gulf War, that I learned some leadership skills from many years ago. And he said that it really comes down to doing what's right. Now, only you know what's right, but I think ultimately when we listen to our heart from a higher level of consciousness, we know what's right. And if we can put that above our own needs first, that's when we start to grow personally. So I'm sure Plato had his own way of saying that, but from that's Peter's way of saying it. Cool. Question from Grace, from one dog love to another. How's Archie and Bella doing? Thank you, Grace. I dropped them off with the dog sitter this morning, and I can only say that I said to Thea, is this what it's like to drop your kids off at their first day at school? So I'm sure I'll find that question out at some point too. But yeah, thanks for asking. They're doing great. They're doing absolutely fabulous. 20 weeks old now, and already doing absolutely marvelous. So again, thank you. Question here from Chris, saying, will I be focusing my future in personal development or entrepreneurship and business? I have to say, Chris, that for me, the two are absolutely intertwined. If you look at every successful entrepreneur, and I don't mean financially, because I see a lot of very successful financial entrepreneurs whose family are dysfunctional, who are on counseling, who are using prescription drugs to get over depression. I don't equate financial success in terms of entrepreneurship. They don't have health at all. Success in business and entrepreneurship, for me, is about being able to have own financial success based upon the value that you've added to others, but also to be able to have a life that's joyous, to be able to get to the end. I've got a business mentor of mine called Peter Thomas, and I was on the phone with him recently. He's just celebrated his 75th birthday, and the guy is always so happy, with a smile, always doing something for others, always looking to add value, always cracking a joke, always being positive and upbeat. The guy's got more energy than I have, and I love that. Worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and just a beautiful soul to be around. Everybody who meets Peter loves Peter, and myself included. And he's just an incredible soul. So, what I like about Peter is that he teaches, lives, and absolutely exudes a high level of values. Now, values is on the personal development side, not the business development side. There's a lot of people that have been successful in business that have compromised their values and usually end up unhappy, or certainly with not many friends that want to come see them. So, if you have personal development on one side and entrepreneurship on the other, they have to be intertwined. As an entrepreneur, it starts with the mindset. That's why at the Millionaire Business School tomorrow, I'm not going to mention the word business. Everything that I'm going to be teaching tomorrow is all about psychology. It's reinventing your mindset, reinventing your sense of self, who you are, your relationship to value, your relationship to money, your relationship to the person in the mirror, your relationship to your past, your relationship to how things unfold in your life and the meaning that you give it, your own personal psychology. Now, as some of you know, I've spent vast majority of my life now in walking those two paths side by side. I started my first business at 17, and I picked up my first personal development book and audio tape at 17, and the two have been an integral part of my life since then. I used to get into the office at 5 a.m. I would then do personal development and listen to tapes until 6 a.m. making notes. I'd then go to the gym, train till 7, come back into the office for about 7:30 and get a bit of work done before the zoo arrived at 9, and then carry on. So personal development and business have always been a part of my life. So I'm going to continue that, Chris, thank you for asking. And the two will always be intertwined, because I don't think I can give a business answer without having some level of psychology tied to it. Okay, Tyrone, I see another question here. My new path is my ultimate idea. I've been working on it for 15 years in your mind. You're now developing it. It'll change the consumer market. How do I find the right team before I launch over 8 months? Speed of the leader is the speed of the pack. The team that you will attract aren't going to buy into your idea. I'll tell you that up front. And it's not because I know what your idea is or not. And it's not because I'm putting your idea down or up. What I'm saying is your team will buy into you more than the idea. And if they don't buy into you before the idea, you're only going to keep them so long before they realize that, behind every idea is the leader of the team. So, how do you find the right team? Well, you've certainly got to get out there, but people that are attracted to people that are up to something. If you have this as an idea of yours for the last 15 years, if you have so much passion for what it is that you do, that people can feel it, if you can see what it is that you see. I remember going into an office one time that we were looking to hire to rent. And we walked in and the previous company had taken out everything, the ceiling tiles, the light switches, the carpet tiles. I mean, it was a mess. They'd gone bankrupt and they took everything with them. And I got two people with me. One was my finance director and one was my sales director. And this was a new company we were building. I was building it from scratch. And we walked in, we'd seen 3 or 4 different offices that morning with the real estate agent. And as we walked in, the 2 guys I was with stopped at the door. They just took one look through the door, saw this like mess. And they're like, oh, forget this place. But I kept walking and I walked around it. And I came back a couple of minutes later. They were still waiting at the front door. And I said, guys, it's perfect. And they're like, Pete is officially on drugs. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Follow me. And I walked them through and I showed them the office that I was seeing, not what they were seeing. I'm like, hey, Chris, here's the sales room. Here's where you're going to be. Here's the board where the sales are going up. Here's the bell you're going to be ringing. Hugh, let me come show you your office here. Let me show you where the IT room is. Let me show you where the staff canteen going to be. Let me show you. And I could see it. And as I saw it, I had so much conviction in the vision, in the image, in what is it? It already existed in my mind. They got excited. Now your team will get excited at your conviction in your vision. Then you know you've got the right team. If they're only excited because you're offering them a job and you're trying to pay high salaries to get better talent and this is another job for them on another project, you ain't got the right team. I don't care what CV they've got or resume, right? So, the speed of the leader is the speed of the pack. The belief of the leader comes first. That's what, I would go and say, come on day 3 at the Millionaire Business School, and I have a whole section on how to attract the right talent, how to avoid the wrong talent, because the average bad hire will cost you nearly $100,000 these days. That's just where it's at. How to outsource and find people on that model as well, something we cover. But Tyron, hope that answers your question. Steve says, what do I think about capitalism? Do I think it's a good or a bad system? Well, here we're getting into subjective viewpoints again. Capitalism in terms of a free market economy is like everything, has its ups, has its downs. The model itself has been proven over time to be very useful in being able to cohesively knit together what we call society or civilization. Exchanging value at a fair level is a system that I believe in. Why? Because I look at nature. And nature operates on capitalism. Trees will give fruit in return for the birds to eat the seeds and poop them out somewhere else with some fertilizer to be able to grow somewhere else. That's capitalism. The different levels of animals will provide an overabundance of offspring so that, in return for feeding the lion, they have a chance of being able to have one of the other offspring make it. There's an exchange there. So, and you see many different symbiotic relationships. So capitalism as a system is proven, but it also has downsides. And downsides are where you start to focus on the fundamental flaws of low levels of consciousness in the human condition. Things like greed, things like ego, Things like a values conflict of taking without giving fair value or exchange. Accumulation based upon the fact that I'm worth more than you and I'm better than you because fill in the blank. At those levels, capitalism can be exposed for certain flaws. Having a government in charge of a capitalistic country whose officers of that government have never ran a business, can be questionable. The democracy is like the United Nations, and I'm getting into personal viewpoints here, guys, so I won't dwell too much on this, but the United Nations, and I've spent a fair bit of time recently working with senior officials at the UN, because I'm handing over my space project to one of the divisions of the UN there to basically move forward for the benefit of humanity. But the United Nations is not an international body. It is a collective group of national interests with their own national agendas. I don't think anybody will argue with that. And many of the governments that are represented there that are of capitalistic societies don't know how to run a business, let alone a country. So I'm not big on politics. I don't discuss politics. I'm not going to get into politics. I don't vote. That's just my game. I concentrate on being the best person I can be and adding as much value as I can, and I don't need a government to be able to give me the rules on how to do that. Anyway, that's what I'm going to say on that one before somebody misquotes me on YouTube. Okay, I'm going a little longer here, guys. I want to be respectful of your time, but I did start late, so I did want to give you as much as I can. Let me scroll through if there's any other questions here that I want to address. Here's one from JP Temple, who is actually coming tomorrow, I believe, to the MBS. So if you're on JP, then thank you for this question. It says, do I think it's possible to have a health, fitness, spiritual, financial, and freedom balance and to reach highs in all? Well, we've kind of covered that a little bit. But I think that one can always be striving to move in a more positive direction. Again, it's not about invalidating where you are. The apple tree doesn't beat itself up for not being bigger than it thinks it can be. It knows it's on the path. If your health isn't where it is now, that's okay. Choose a better path and be happy moving down it. Don't beat yourself up just because you can't do 50 press-ups. In terms of for fitness and health, for me, it's a prerequisite. If you do not make time for health, guys, then you will have to make time for illness. Sorry, that's an equation that I didn't write. That's just the way it is. So health is a level of value for me that I invest in, and it's vibrancy, not just health. Having that level of being able to enjoy life, no matter what money you've got. So spiritual freedom, spiritual balance. There has to be a spiritual side, because if you're focusing just on the physical, you're focusing at the lowest vibration there is. Spiritual, emotional, physical, and mental. The physical side is the lowest vibration. We know that. So spiritual side, for some people, it's something they grow into. In my 20s, I thought spirituality was chasing ghosts. That's what I thought. Or the other spirits I was into was Bacardi and Coke. That was about it. Spirituality didn't really feature much in my life until I started getting some level of emotional maturity and taking the focus off myself. Again, Buddha wasn't born enlightened. He was born as Prince Siddhartha and had his own journey. There seems to be something about emotional and spiritual maturity that comes with age. That's just where I was, because I was a complete idiot in my 20s in that level, but it's part of the journey. And financial freedom, again, same thing. People learn over time through their 20s that they kind of learn that chasing money is usually frustrating, and they're always chasing it because they're chasing the outcome of something that hasn't happened yet. In other words, an exchange of value, like going to the gym and saying, well, why haven't I got big muscles yet? Because you've got to lift the weights. Why haven't I got more money yet? Because you've got to add some value. That's just simple. So can you reach highs in all? Well, high, again, is subjective. What is high? High for some people is having enough money in the bank to be able to buy food. For others, less than $1 million, and they feel like they're in poverty. So your own personal journey on each of those should be that. It should be a journey. And wherever those benchmarks are for you, continually raising them and moving them forward to express more of your potential is, from what I found, a healthy way to go forward. Okay. I'm probably going to wrap up last couple of questions. A quick one here from Dave says, have I found questions more valuable than answers? Well, I think you can quote several of the great names in history that said, you can't learn something you don't already know. Yeah, Napoleon Hill said that, every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit if you know how to ask the question. In other words, I don't think there is a question that you can ask that doesn't inherently have the seed of its own answer. So yes, questions are way more powerful because they force you to think in certain ways. And when you start to learn how to think in terms of possibility, in terms of creativity, in terms of abundance, that's going to lead to a completely different life. And questions are the focal point. They're the aperture that concentrates your level of concentration. Let's have a look. How can I develop a way of thinking? You don't need more money, you need a better strategy. Keep asking the question, Saber, how can I add value? Yeah, how can I add value? What is it that somebody else wants that I can help provide or go find for them and be able to deliver that in a way that brings value to the table? What is it? Here's a quick strategy I'll share with you. For an airline upgrade. And for me, this goes back a few years when I was turning right on the plane a lot, and that happens recently too sometimes, depending on on what business I'm either successful or not successful in. But 6'3", I don't fly economy. It's not an ego thing. I just don't fit. So when I was in certain situations where unfortunately because of economics, I've got to go buy an economy ticket, and I'd always come up with a strategy. I thought, okay, what can I do? And here's what I did. I'll throw this one out for you guys. I would go, and let's say I was going from England. I'd go to Paddington to get the Heathrow Express, and I would go and spend £30 on a bunch of flowers and a card. And I would write the card on the train, and I would say something like, let's say I was flying with Virgin or BA or Monarch or whoever it was, and I say, to all the ground staff and crew at Virgin Atlantic, thank you, Peter Sage. I always put my full name in. And then what I do is I go to the check-in, and I'd always clock the name badge, and let's say it was Joanne, and I turn around to Joanne and I say, hi Joanne, just checking in, I'm on the flight to, let's say, San Francisco. Oh, by the way, these are for you. I give a big bunch of flowers, and they'll be like, what's going on? And I said, well, they're not actually for you, they're for you and all the team. And I says, and I just want to say thank you because last time I flew with you guys, which this would always be true, you guys took really good care of me, and I just wanted to say thanks. And at that point, I would let go. I'd have no expectation. I wouldn't want an upgrade. I wouldn't give out the vibe of please give me something. It's not reciprocal. If you make it reciprocal, it's out of the game. Just let it go. It may come back in 3 flights' time. But more often than not, by the time I got to the gate, and it's always usually the same check-in staff that put them there, I'd have my name called, and I'd come up and I'd get an upgrade 3 out of 5 times. And I used to think, there's a couple of million people a year go through Heathrow. How many people actually bother to go and give them flowers? How many people give them crap about trying to muscle in for an upgrade? Or, the fact that they can't get legroom, or the fact that the flight's delayed. These are people too. If you focus on becoming a smile creator, rather than explain why they should be pissed off, the fact that you're pissed off because the world doesn't fit your pictures, you'll start seeing lots of different ways you can add value, and capital versus initiative will start really helping out. Anyway, we've got some shout outs for Bulletproof on here as well, and I can endorse that. Bulletproof are a lead sponsor at the Millionaire Business School, so it's only fair I give them a big shout out. I will be drinking some Bulletproof coffee tomorrow morning to help power me through the next 40 hours on stage in the next 3 days, transforming lives here in London. And they've got some great stuff to be able to check out. I'm a big fan of Dave. I think he's the epitome of somebody that walks his talk and doesn't just do research or look for other people, but actually really gets in the game himself and tests everything himself. I never forget an old business partner of mine one time says, Pete, we test everything we do. He says, from a customer experience perspective. And he said, I was in a bar one time and I ordered a cheese sandwich. And he said, the cheese sandwich came, and I looked at it, and it was 2 big pieces of bread with a tiny, tiny, thin piece of cheese. And I took it back to the barman, and I said, excuse me, have you ever eaten your own cheese sandwich? And he says, no, why? And he said, I took the cheese out, and I held it up, and I looked at him through the cheese. It was so transparent because it was that thin. He said, never get to a point where you don't eat your own cheese sandwich. And I thought that was a beautiful story. That's an old business partner, Jeff. And yeah, bless him, he's in his 80s now. And I learned a lot from Jeff. So, eat your own cheese sandwich. And I love Dave because he eats his own cheese sandwich, even though it's probably not cheese, if put it into that context. Guys, I'm going to answer one more question if you can throw it in, and then I'm going to call it off and probably try and get a bit of rest and sleep here tonight myself so I can charge up and hit the stage tomorrow. So yeah, if you've got anything here, let me have a little look. We've got Silas online as well. Silas, great to see you. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow as well. Dawson, how can I prepare for tomorrow's MBS? Come with an open mind, play full out, and definitely get some sleep tonight. You are going to need it, guys. I can promise you that. Just scrolling through, see if there's any other questions I've missed or I could jump on here for you guys. Let's have a look. Wow, it's been a busy night. And again, guys, thank you so much for your patience earlier. I have now been informed by my tech team as to how to deal with some of the issues that we're having here, and you'll be pleased to know that it will not be happening again. So, again, your patience fully rewarded. Appreciate you staying with me. And again, any last questions, throw it in, and I will see if I can come up with a rapid answer. Jan, yes, I'm hoping to do a seminar in America next year on the East Coast and the West Coast. Email happy to help at petersage.com as ever. Let's have a look. David says, oh, here's a great question. Yeah, what's the secret to running a business with your girlfriend? Okay. Oh dear, says he with some previous memories that he's going to try and forget. Nando, I didn't see the question. Type it in while I'm answering this one for Dave. I'll finish on yours. How's that? So the first thing when you're running a business with a spouse or a partner is to set yourself up to win. Now, when it comes to guys in their masculine energy usually have an easier way of being able to separate the identity of friend versus business partner. We can wear hats. We can have a go at each other across the boardroom table and then go out and have a beer. When it comes to women, it's a little different in my experience because women are more emotionally sensitive. That's what makes them beautiful in the way they are. But guys, don't make the mistake of thinking that you can have a go or an argument with your girlfriend in wearing a business hat and expect her to take the business hat off when you go home, because that's probably not going to happen. So making people understand that it's not about them and there's a difference between personal issues and business issues up front. Set the ground rules. Do we have the ability to bring things to the table that are gray areas and discuss them? Share your goals and share your values. If you're doing it with your girlfriend, and this may sound harsh, but I'm being upfront, have a divorce strategy before you get married. When it comes to business, it can be worse than being married because you've got financial implications on top, male or female. And you're with each other 24/7. The stress is on there. And the stresses that get triggered because if your net worth and your self-worth are combined and your net worth gets threatened, it'll trigger your self-worth to go down, which triggers the fear that we're not enough, which we kick back against. So there's a lot more stress usually, and people usually compromise their values a lot more around finance than anything else because of that. So if you're working together in a personal relationship and a business relationship, set up the rules in advance so at least you can agree. At least you can then point and say, hey, listen, here's why I said that. Here's the agreement we had. Because if you're dealing with emotions in the moment, women are more likely, people in their feminine, which is guys too, if we're in that mode, are more likely to react to that emotion, not the rule that we wrote and agreed on 3 weeks ago, unless we can set that up in advance. So that's probably what we've got here. Let's have a look. How do I determine who not to do business with? I've learned that over the hard way. Alignment of values is the biggest one there, without a shadow of a doubt. I'd also go as far as to say complementary levels of consciousness, but yeah, I haven't got time to get into the intricacies of how I benchmark that, unfortunately. Any update on the book? There are books coming. We've got something coming out before the end of the year. I'm working on 2 other books. One is going to be launched definitely before the end of the year. And the big one that I'm working on, is still in progress, because every time I go to it, I think of other things that can upgrade. And every time I work with people in coaching or the Elite Mentorship Forum or on the Master Circle, I get better ideas, and I want to incorporate that. So at some point, I'm just going to have to draw a line and say, this is it. Other than that, Nando, how can we enjoy and build the process of myelin? Don't really have much time to get into that, my friend, but stay with frustration. The 2 best friends you have in learning are frustration and curiosity, because the 2 will keep you staying in that sense of, working through that frustration, where myelin is built over the neural connections to allow the brain to operate 30% faster. There's a video uploaded a few months ago by Stanford Research where they did time-lapse photography on myelin coating the neural networks. It's fascinating. Go check it out on YouTube. The process is called myelination. Other than that, guys, I think we're at the end. I mean, I'd love to stay here all night, but unfortunately, I've got about 150 people that are going to be flying in or are flown in and expecting me to be on top form tomorrow. It's about 8:30 at night here, and 12 hours from now, we are going to be live and kicking. So all I can say here, guys, is thank you. There's no other offers here tonight. I'm just wanting to come on and add some value to you lot. I just want to turn around and say thank you. Stay in touch. We'll be putting another Q&A out when we have some dates for the next MBS, which is likely going to be either last week in February, yeah, spoiler alert, or first week in March. We'll be signing that off next week when we get the venue tied down. So yeah, those that couldn't make it this time, please come and play with us next time. And I'm sure you'll be hearing some of the stories and success stories of the people that have come through on this time. So that's everything. Guys, thank you so much again. My heart to your heart, for staying and putting up with the delays, and for hanging in there and asking such great questions and allowing me to do what I love to do, which is to answer them and add some value to you guys. Go make it happen. Go stay amazing. And I look forward to speaking and seeing some of you very, very soon. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.